We
Yeah,
didn't have,
uh,
excuse me, we didn't have VCRs. I mean, if you had a VCR in them days, you were doing something because only people with a so-called rich or whatever. VCRs were a pretty penny back in those days, so it was like we had to go to the movies. We didn't have DVD, iPod, nothing like that. So we seen all this stuff for most of us in the theater, or we snuck there, but we went and seen it. We had to use more of imagination. Everything now is already just put there, and it kind of takes away. I don't really even go to the movies that much nowadays. I don't. It's nothing that really grabs me. If I go, it's like whenever the move just hits me. But I used to go to the movies all the time.
you
Great
know,
observation. Your
let me
point.
say this right here. We kind of talked about this earlier when we were out to dinner, but that's very same era of the early '70s when I was gaining independence and moving around. I never really realized until I was older how significant the relationships of blacks and whites in America, the civil rights movement in America. I didn't really realize how fresh all that was. I actually lived in Los Angeles during the Watts riots and witnessed buses being turned over and stuff, but I was 9. So it didn't it I was 9, I saw it, but it was going over my head. Now, you fast forward 3 years from that time period, and basically that's when these films started coming out. Okay, and you take it from a point to where, man, it was really a renaissance for blacks all across America in a lot of different walks of life. But since we're on this movie thing, I want to relate a story. When you asked me something about growing up in Texas, and it's just growing up in general. But I didn't realize back then when I was 12, and I'd leave my neighborhood, and I'd go to the movies, and we'd go to the joke shop, and G.C. Woolworth had the best hamburgers ever. And we would leave and go to G.C. Woolworth and sit at that counter, and we would order hamburgers, and the people were always, they served us, but you could always tell something just wasn't quite right, but you couldn't put your finger on it. And I never was able to put my finger on it at that time. But it didn't dawn on me till later in life that they had just started allowing blacks to even come in that store, maybe 3 or 4 years prior, if that long. So I was like, wow, man, I didn't realize how cutting edge and groundbreaking a lot of stuff that was even going on at that time was. And you mentioned uh, Isaac Kennedy and uh, man, Fred Williams.
Right.
But hey, man, the door was
I mean,
basically
that was in the '80s, though.
you
This
know,
what you're talking about is way,
yeah. But man, when I'm talking about when
at
man,
that time,
the Sheila
probably,
Frazier's and
right.
Sidney
And
Poitier's
even
and
as a director, it
and
was
the
only
Bill
Gordon Parks,
Cosby's and Gordon Parks and
Stan Lathan.
I mean, even though it's like if people, they want to talk about we only made certain movies, but they made all kinds of movies, man.
That's right.
Johnny Tough was about a kid in the streets. Sparkle was a different type of story. And we made our own horror movies. We made our own love stories. We made our own stories about jail. We made our own stories about slaves in the field. We made our own stories about selling dope, about gangsters. So you can't really say, well, all they did was fight. We made movies about everything back
Yes,
then.
exactly.
And, good, bad, right, wrong, wherever it was with Hollywood, doors were opened. And when doors are open, that's never a bad thing.
Let's get to some entertainment. Let's show them a little bit what we're talking about. Hey everybody, welcome back to Soul Scoop. Boy, this is the best time that I've had in a long time doing this show, man. Usually I'm in there by myself, you guys know. It's not like I'm lonely or nothing, but boy, it's good to have, one person never knows it all. And so it's always good. 3 minds are always better than one. 3 times better, 3 times the fun, 3 times the funk, 3 times the knowledge. And this show, I have to say, has been powerful. I mean, just truly, truly powerful. That last segment, boy, I really didn't even want to stop it. We had to get to some entertainment. We getting ready to get out of here. These cats were gracious enough to stop in before they headed down to Long Beach to the Funk Fest, see his heroes, Dennis Coffey, and just different people, the Family Stone. just a lot of Brides of Funkenstein, and my man is out here on a Mecca trip from Dallas, Texas to do his funk show and documentary down there, man. And you actually have something that's hot in the kitchen getting ready to go down you were talking about?
Yeah, we brought up the movies, and a lot of times on the Uncut Funk we do themes. We did our guitars when Charles Pitts died from Isaac Hayes' band. We did a guitar
I did a
show.
piece on him too, man.
Yeah, we did a all guitar show.
Oh, right on, man.
And man, it was deep, man. I'll get you a copy.
Give me
of that.
I want to hear that.
A copy of that, as a matter of fact. And on tap, I have an all soundtrack show coming up. So man, we're just gonna collect various songs from these soundtracks of these movies that we were just speaking of, and we're just gonna fill up a whole show with it and put it down.
Boy, now I know we must be born in the same womb, because me and Odis, I'm telling you, we were talking about a soundtrack show, what, 3-4 months ago?
Yeah.
Not only a soundtrack show, but we were also going to do a 70s martial arts show, because a lot of those kung fu movies, because you looking at two fanatics.
Yeah.
You looking at somebody who stood in the line in July at the Golden Gate Theater who saw Enter the Dragon right 2 weeks after Bruce died, and you can imagine what the vibe was, because, he's from San Francisco, so we in the line, little kids, snot-nosed kids doing kung fu in the line, waiting.
Wow.
There wasn't no multiplexes, as you well know, so people telling us when they come out how bad the movie was, and like I said, matter of fact, that's something me and Odis, who's the ultimate professor and all of that, we're gonna talk about Duel of the Iron Fist, Five Fingers of Death, you name it. And a lot of those movies too, on the real side, had a lot of that music. I'm gonna let you get in this. I'm gonna let you have this before we get out of here, man. This is Otis's specialty.
It was brought to my attention by a cat named Professor Curtis, who I also got a lot of video knowledge and cult information from. But as he was bringing it to my attention back then, in the early 70s, when those movies came out, they capitalized on the audience who was really looking at them, which was us, the black audience. We really took to those movies because we could relate to some of the cultural, the spirituality in them, and then the music as well, because back over in Asia, they trip off the funk just as hard as we do. So they were making their movies, but they got to looking at ours, so they would use our soundtracks.
Now, you know what's interesting, before I let you finish? He's seen it. I'm not sure if you've seen it, and some of you may not have seen it. Some of you may have seen it. There's a documentary on Bruce Lee called Curse of the Dragon that came out when Brandon Lee was unfortunately taken away from us, Bruce Lee's son. And there was one part on there where Bruce Lee's brother is on there, and you know where I'm going. And the mother didn't know that black people embraced Bruce Lee the way he did. You know how we love Bruce Lee. And she was in the movie theaters with her son, and she didn't understand English, and it was like, kick his ass, brother. Blah, blah, blah. Bugs in the movie, like, you know how we do, talking to the screen. Man, shut up, And the mother didn't understand. She was like scared, and the brother, her son was like, no, Mom. They like my son like this. It like tripped her out. If you ever see the documentary, it's called Curse of the Dragon. You want to check that out. Bruce's mother was tripped out that black people loved Bruce Lee like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
his brother wrote a song about him. It's on it's on DVD now, but you have to look online. You can't find it in the store. It's called Warrior Within, and I seen that in the movie theater. It was basically built around a lot of black martial artists, and they were talking about their connection with Bruce Lee and the martial world, and then also the spirituality as well, and the music, because there's a lot of nice soulful jazz music in the background.
See, now that's something I didn't know on the real side, because most of us only know about Jim Kelly, the Tattoo Connection and Black Samurai, some of that stuff, but there was a lot of different other brothers that were actually really kind of involved with that.
Oh yeah,
thanks for bringing that to
and
my
these cats were serious too. They had one brother on there said he didn't even watch kung fu movies. That was his opinion though, but he was a master of martial art, and he said he didn't watch them because he didn't, he was more the type that I'm here now, which Bruce, that was his philosophy too. Also, what you seen with his movies, it was quick to the point. They'd fight, quick to the point. But these other movies were just probably more made on action. but Bruce's was the soul and the intellect of the martial art and expressing one's body and mind and everything, the whole thing like
Yeah,
that.
we gonna get into that. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because now that you brought that up, now we got to get on the ball, because it lets me know that our spirits are really, really aligned. A final thought from you, and then I'm gonna let you, since you didn't came 2,000 miles, so you get the last word.
All right.
Well, I'm just happy to be here. You know, God's willing that we are here laying this information, and I apologize for any past misinformation that I might have gave out, because this is all live and in your face, never rehearsed.
Now, you must be talking about stuff when we first started in Oakland, because you ain't gave no misinformation in a while. And while I'm on that subject, man, thank you and Tyrone Triggs and Mustafa Naka, but you in particular, who sat at my house in front of the piano when, you know, it was just a dream and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do.
Exactly.
We didn't really have mics or nothing like that. And, you've been with me, man, from day one. I just want to say I love you, man, and thank you so very much, because like I said, we laugh about it, but he carried me. Him and a couple other people carried me, and I'm glad that you guys are not around to see any of those episodes. I'll never ever rebroadcast
I
them.
thought I was being carried.
No, man, you carried me. He's a lot more camera ready than I ever was, because I just want to just sit back, as I've said on previous shows, and just actually produce and just, you know, be that kind of a guy, be kind of like a Charles Stephanie or Tom Bell or somebody like that. Just stay behind the scenes and just a final thought from my man over here.
Man, I just want to say that it was a pleasure to be on the show. It's a pleasure to meet you in person. We've talked several times over the phone, but it's a pleasure to meet you in person. And the show host is so gracious. We found out recently that we're actually family. And man, he invited me into his home and said, man, even if I'm not here, here's a key. Just come and go as you please. And that's rare in a person's spirit, that they take you in and trust you with their home. And I mean, this guy has, you know, he has what he has, and I wouldn't leave people around my stuff. And for him to say that, that was big. I also want to say that, man, I've had a great time tonight. Yeah, I've had a great time. It's not often that I get to have a conversation, and I'm not saying that I'm a super intellect or anything. I'm not saying it in that respect. I'm just saying it's not often I get to have a conversation with people that's on my level, just musically, and we can talk about abstract things, but with us, they're not abstract. You know, they may be abstract to the common person, because like, what? But, you know, but we were able to talk about things, just like even in the fact that you mentioned being in the background, and you mentioned Charles Stepney being in the background. And 99% of America is going to say, who is that? But when you said that, I was like, yeah. I get it.
Music is so very, very spiritual. I can't stress it to you guys who are watching at home enough. Music is very spiritual, and for a lot of black folks, white folks, and you know, yellow, whoever, people who are into it the way that we are, who are watching, we may not know, from different cultures or whatever. It's so universal. One of the two things in life, people are going to always make love, and people are always into music. And no matter what you like, whether it's Chinese music, whether it's Latin music, whether it's Afro-Cuban, whatever you like, you know, and you love it and you into it, don't never let nobody tell you that it ain't happening or whatever, because you like what you like. And if there's spirit in it, and I think there's spirit in all music, hip-hop or whatever it may be, then hey, don't let nobody tell you no different. Phil Colley, 2,000 miles away, thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
Co-founder of the show, you know what you've meant to this whole thing. Hey, we out of here. God bless you all. We'll see you all next time.